The once lively hospital room immediately fell into an eerie silence following Xander Gray's words. His group of close buddies looked visibly awkward as they avoided eye contact with me. As my gaze swept across their faces, how could I not understand? They all knew about Beverly Long. Suddenly, I felt like a clown. My earlier sweet and shy demeanor must have seemed especially pathetic and amusing to them. Someone stammered, trying to explain, don't mind him. Xander's under anesthesia and just spouting nonsense. The others immediately chimed in. Yeah, exactly. Everyone knows Xander is totally whipped. He loves you so much, this must just be the anesthesia talking. That's right, Beverly is just Xander's secretary. How could she compare to you in his heart? One of them nudged the last speaker, signaling him to stop. I remained silent, but my feet, having been soaked in cold rainwater for over 4 hours, were beginning to feel numb. Xander kept muttering, "Where's my wife? Where's my wife? Finn, call my wife for me." His voice began to sound a bit aggrieved as he continued, "I want to hold her. Why doesn't she care about me at all?" I held Xander's hand and asked, "Xander, who am I?" He looked at me groggily, and after a while, uttered 3 terse words, "An old hag." I laughed, but my eyes filled with tears. So this was it. From being high school sweethearts to now, starting our relationship at 17 years of age till 30 through 4 years of marriage, I was already nothing but an old hag in his eyes. Finally, I picked up Xander's phone and called his secretary, Beverly. When Beverly arrived, she ignored me completely and rushed straight to Xander's side. She clutched his hand, her eyes red with emotion, and said, "Xander, I'm sorry I'm late." Xander's face immediately lit up, and he pulled her into his arms, saying, "Sweetheart, you're finally here. Earlier, someone tried to impersonate you, but I'm not stupid. How could I not recognize my own wife? I told her to get lost." Beverly shot me a triumphant glance and coaxed Xander like a child, "You're so smart, honey." Xander pointed to himself and said, "Aren't you going to reward me with a kiss?" With that, the two of them kissed, completely oblivious to anyone else. While I watched this sickening scene, I felt my nose sting and my throat burn. No matter how hard I pinched my thighs with my nails, I couldn't stop myself from trembling or feeling cold. His close buddy, Finn Holloway, couldn't bear it and softly said, "Lynn, maybe you should head back for now. When Xander comes to his senses, he'll definitely explain everything." Explain? I looked at him, tears streaming down my face. I didn't want to cry, especially not in front of the other woman. It was just too humiliating, but I couldn't control myself. Half an hour ago, Xander was still the perfect husband in my eyes, obsessively in love with me, his wife, and was my pride and joy to brag about wherever I went. Throughout 13 years of love, we never fought once, all thanks to his endless patience and affection. So, when his facade collapsed, it felt like a violent earthquake within me, in the aftermath of which I was destined to be crushed to pieces. I silently stood up and left the hospital room. As I stepped out the door, I heard them breathe a collective sigh of relief, as though they had just rid themselves of a walking disaster. It turned out that, at some point, neither Xander nor his friends considered me part of their circle anymore. That night, I couldn't sleep. My dreams were filled with fragments of the 13 years I had shared with Xander, suffocating me with pain. At some point, I developed a fever. My whole body felt hot and stifling. I struggled to wake up but couldn't open my eyes no matter how hard I tried. Just when I thought I was dying, I felt someone touch my forehead and urgently call me sweetheart. I didn't have the strength to respond, but tears streamed uncontrollably down my face. When I finally woke up, I saw Xander sitting by my bedside, looking utterly exhausted. I never expected Xander to be the first thing I'd see upon opening my eyes. I thought last night was just a dream, so for a moment, I couldn't process it and just stared blankly at him. Seeing that I was awake, Xander grasped my hand excitedly and asked, "Sweetheart, how are you feeling now?" I pulled my hand away from his palm, frowning at him. "Sweetheart? Isn't it old hag?" Xander's face turned pale. His eyes reddened as he slapped himself hard. "I'm sorry. I really didn't mean it yesterday. It was just the anesthesia messing with my head. I didn't know I'd do something so stupid. When I fully came to my senses, I was filled with regret and fear. I was terrified you'd leave me, so even though the doctor told me not to leave the hospital, I still checked myself out. As he spoke, he struggled to get up and lifted his shirt. He'd had an appendectomy, and now blood was seeping through the gauze. Thinking about how he'd stayed by my side all night, my heart softened a little. Looking at his pitiful expression, I thought, maybe it's true. Maybe. He hasn't completely lost his way. Perhaps he's just developed a fleeting infatuation for a young, pretty woman, but it's nothing compared to his love for me. As long as he could extinguish those feelings in time, we could go back to how things were. Nevertheless, the thought of them kissing in front of everyone last night made my tears fall uncontrollably. Xander's eyes turned red, filled with guilt. He hurriedly wiped my tears while remorsefully confessing, "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I never thought I'd hurt you this much, but you have to believe me. You're the only one I want. I don't know why I acted like that under anesthesia. I've already fired Beverly overnight. No matter what, her behavior last night proved she had inappropriate intentions toward me. A woman like that, who shamelessly tries to be a third party, has no integrity. I would never be interested in someone like her." He paused, then added seriously, "You know how much I hate cheating. How could I ever do something like that?" Looking at the resolute Xander, I thought of his past. His mother had suffered a mental breakdown and committed suicide because of his father's infidelity, so Xander loathed cheating with a passion. He even refused to work with people of poor morals. Besides, if he truly had feelings for someone else, why would he have treated me so well all these years? With that thought, I decided to give him another chance. He hugged me tightly, and his tears ran down my neck, soaking into my skin. I knew Xander wasn't someone who cried easily. If he shed tears, it meant that he truly loved me and was genuinely afraid of losing me. "Xander, don't lie to me. If you do, you'll lose your moon forever." Moon was his nickname for me, the name he used to love calling me. His body stiffened slightly, but in the next moment, he declared with unwavering determination, "My sweet Moon, don't worry. Your son will never betray you." And just like that, we reconciled. Xander treated me even better than before. He began picking me up and dropping me off at work on time every day, bringing me a different bouquet of fresh flowers daily. He'd massage me, snuggle with me under the covers, and watch mindless romantic dramas with me. My coworkers kept praising me for being a master at managing my husband and even asked me for tips. Alas, far from the pride and confidence I used to feel when talking about our relationship, I could only muster a sheepish smile now. The events of that night remained a knot in my heart. A month later, I found out I was pregnant. When I told Xander, he was ecstatic, spinning me around in circles. Watching him grin like a fool, I felt grateful I hadn't given up on him because of one mistake. I thought, he's bound to be a good father. Until the day I caught him accompanying Beverly to her prenatal checkup. He gently caressed her belly, his smile full of anticipation. Beverly asked him, "Will you love our child more than Lynn's?" Without even looking up, Xander replied, "Of course, I'll love our child more. He's my first son, after all. You're young and beautiful, so our child is sure to be smarter than hers." It was the first time I realized that when you're utterly disgusted by someone, the nausea can be so intense it makes you want to vomit. I rushed to the trash can and retched uncontrollably. Beverly and Xander were walking in my direction. Panicking, I hid behind the trash can. I heard Beverly whining to Xander, "How can you be so sure the baby in my womb is a boy? What if it's a girl?" Xander chuckled softly. "I'd love a girl too. A daughter who's gentle, sweet, and understanding like you. I'd be the happiest man alive." Beverly giggled coquettishly. "You're such a smooth talker. But I'm scared. What if you won't have time for me and our baby anymore after she gives birth?" Xander said, "Don't worry. I've already planned it out. Tomorrow, Finn will help you move to Phoenix. I'll make it a point to come up with a reason to travel for work every month and spend half the month living with you there." Beverly did a little cheer, and the two of them left together, laughing and chatting as they got into the car. I stood up, trembling, my vision blurred by tears. The prenatal checkup report in my hand was crumpled into a ball. For the first time, I felt grateful that I had decided to go to the hospital alone out of concern for his busy schedule. If I hadn't, I wouldn't have stumbled upon this. I'd probably still be foolishly letting him manipulate me, utterly clueless. But, Xander, if you love her so much, why did you try to win me back? Why won't you divorce me? I returned home very late. During that time, Xander called me dozens of times, but I didn't answer. The moment I walked through the door, he rushed over to hug me, his eyes full of worry. Sweetheart, where have you been? Do you know I've been losing my mind looking for you? I went to the hospital. Xander instantly tensed up. He looked at me nervously, cautiously asking, when did you go? Which hospital? Why didn't you call me? Archangel Medical Center. Knowing how busy you are, I didn't want to disturb you. Xander let out a sigh of relief. They had gone to the Royal Women and Children's Hospital. He asked, what did the doctor say? Judging by the expression on your face. Is it bad news? Yeah, I replied. The doctor said it might not survive. As I spoke, I kept my eyes fixed on him, watching for his reaction. Xander looked a little surprised, but there wasn't much grief in his eyes. He held me close and said, it's okay, love. You're what's most important to me. My heart ached so deeply that I wanted to tear him apart. He genuinely didn't care about this child. Despite knowing it might not make it, he wasn't particularly upset. After all, he already had a child he was eagerly awaiting. At that thought, I couldn't keep up the act. Pushing him away, I said I was tired and locked myself in the bedroom. Not long after, Xander called me to come out for dinner. I had no desire to see him, so I pretended to be asleep. Xander eventually left the room. Shortly after, I heard him answer a call, and then leave in a hurry. I immediately got up and quietly followed him. First, Xander stopped by a florist and bought a bouquet. Then he picked up a package from the mall and bought some dessert from a bakery. Finally, he arrived at his destination, our marital home. My hands gripped the steering wheel, shaking uncontrollably. That suffocating feeling, the overwhelming nausea, and the urge to vomit returned with a vengeance. I couldn't believe it. Xander had moved his mistress into our marital home. That house wasn't just any place. It was the home I had bought with the proceeds from selling my parents' old house, combined with the money I earned from working tirelessly on marketing projects. It was my wedding gift to him, our first home together. Even though it was small and the neighborhood was merely average, it held immeasurable significance. Even after Xander became a wealthy entrepreneur with numerous properties in Fort Rainier, this house remained untouched. He had said it wasn't just a house but a testament to my wholehearted love for him. However, now he let another woman move in with his child, shamelessly trampling on the woman who had once loved him with all her heart. At that moment, I finally felt completely disillusioned. I didn't want this man anymore. I sat in my car outside the building all night, as if punishing myself for my naivety. I could finally break free from this relationship only by witnessing him settle in with her and making a home in that house. The next morning, Xander walked out of the building, looking refreshed with Beverly by his side. She stood on tiptoes to lovingly adjust his tie while speaking softly to him. He gazed at her tenderly, leaning forward slightly to spare her the effort. At the same time, he was texting on his phone. My phone buzzed. I glanced at it and saw that it was a message from him. There's an urgent contract issue at work. I've been busy all night and might not be home until later tonight. Take care of yourself and eat on time. Love, your dearest husband. The nausea surged up again. I tried to suppress it, but I couldn't stop myself from throwing up. This man was utterly disgusting, so repulsive it was unbearable. After Xander drove off, Beverly hummed a tune as she headed upstairs. I steadied myself for a while and dabbed some lipstick onto my pale face before stepping out of the car and knocking on the door. Beverly opened it with a smile, murmuring, "Did you forget something?" When she saw me, her last words stretched out in a long, mocking note. I stared at her coldly. I thought she would be scared or feel guilty, but instead, she brazenly sized me up and down, smiling maliciously yet gently. Well, I was wondering who it could be. Turns out it's Xander's tasteless but hard-to-discard old wife. Her tone dripped with mockery. Since you're here, why not come in and take a look around? She stepped aside, inviting me in like she was the rightful lady of the house and I were the one sneaking around, unworthy of the spotlight. I could hear the sound of my ragged breathing, but my heart felt lifeless, as though it had already died. Mechanically, I walked into what I once believed to be the happiest little home for Xander and me, and found pairs of items everywhere. There were matching slippers, couple pajamas, and even toothbrushes designed to form a heart-shaped pattern when placed together. Beverly didn't follow me. She didn't even care to trail behind and rub salt into my wounds. Instead, she lazily fiddled with the bouquet Xander had gifted her last night and mocked, "Really, why bother? From the moment you chose to forgive him, you should have known that in his eyes, you're just someone without boundaries. To him, as long as he doesn't divorce you, you'll forgive him for anything. Believe me, even if you expose him right now, he'll just apologize smoothly and beg for your forgiveness. And you'll forgive him. You can't leave him. After all, at your age, where else can you find such a wealthy husband? Oh, and don't look down on me. In the end, we're the same, you and I. The same." I felt as though blood was choking me. I wanted to lunge at her and tear her smug face apart. Xander and I had known each other since we were young. I'd worked tirelessly for his sake, running around and pulling all-nighters to help him succeed. Sure, he started from nothing, but he couldn't have made it without my support. How dare she think we were the same? Nonetheless, her confidence was undeniable, so much so that I didn't even need to question it. It was clear, Xander had fed her his perception of me. Maybe I'd been wrong all along. I forgave him because I loved him, but in his eyes, my forgiveness was purely for self-interest. This man, this relationship of over a decade, had rotted away into a toxic, foul-smelling swamp, corrupted by his growing social status. I strode past Beverly, heels clicking, and entered the living room. My eyes landed on a massive wedding photo hanging on the wall. In the photo, Beverly wore a diamond-studded wedding gown while being embraced by Xander. Their backdrop was the famed Aegean Sea, painting a portrait of luxury and extravagance. I thought my heart was already dead and numb, but seeing that picture made it seize painfully as if a hand were gripping my throat, leaving me gasping for air. The photo that used to hang there was of me and Xander. Unlike theirs, ours had been simple. Back then, we were so broke we couldn't even afford the cheapest wedding package. We had taken ours on a random beach. All I wore was a plain white dress and a veil, and we just had a camera. That was our wedding photo. I forced myself to stay calm, pulled out my phone, and snapped a photo of their wedding portrait. At that moment, I came to a final realization. If someone was rotten to the core, they belonged in the trash. Xander and Beverly had been cohabiting for a long time, long enough to constitute a de facto marriage. I'd take this evidence, contact a lawyer, and make sure those two scumbags ended up with nothing. Beverly panicked when she saw me taking the photo. She instinctively tried to snatch my phone. She cradled her belly as if that would make me relent and hand over my phone out of pity for her being pregnant. I sidestepped her, but she took advantage of my movement to shove me hard into the coffee table. With a loud thud, I hit the table's edge, and almost immediately, blood began flowing from between my legs. For a moment, hatred flashed across Beverly's face. I crumpled to the floor at her feet, my belly screaming in pain as I desperately reached for my phone. Even if this child wasn't wanted by its father, it was still mine. I didn't want to lose it. Beverly's twisted laughter rang out. Just as my hand touched the phone, she stomped down on my fingers and twisted her heel viciously. The searing pain made me cry out. Suddenly, the sound of the smart lock beeped. Someone had unlocked the door. I looked up and saw Xander